All right, we're live. Let's see. How's it going, William? Doing all
Yeah,
right?
going good. How are you doing today?
Been doing pretty good. Let's check and make sure we're out there live, and it looks like we are out there. If anybody else is joining us, let us know in the chat. But I'm checking YouTube. We look good, and it looks like we are live on X as well. So all good. So. Well, welcome to the Accessibility Checker Changelog live stream, episode 2. In this episode, we will be talking from error to explanation, smarter accessibility reporting. So this last couple weeks was kind of a we kind of went through a couple sprints, and we actually released 2 releases in the last couple weeks, right, William?
Yep. Unexpected surprise release yesterday.
Yeah, so it's a free release, an extra free release. So
Yeah. Now we've
we're,
got to fill things up for next week.
that's right. That's right. So next week is a typical planned release. So yeah, so 2 for 1 this week. And so what we typically have been trying to do lately is we've been trying to run 2-week sprints, kind of that kind of forces us from a development standpoint to limit the scope of features that we're trying to implement so that we can get them out to you guys using the plugin sooner, and for us to feel like we are moving at a good pace and releasing and getting that dopamine hit every time we release a new version. So we could jump into it. This live stream is about the Accessibility Checker plugin. It's a WordPress plugin. And at this point, it is a suite of plugins. We have the Accessibility Checker free plugin, which is a very full-featured accessibility scanner. We have a pro version, which extends those features out and allows you to do things like full-site scanning and some tools to help you remediate issues from a global level. And then we have like a suite of add-ons for the plugin. We have the audit history add-on, which tracks your accessibility issues over time. And then we have a multi-site add-on to manage multiple subsites and licenses and activations across all of those. And we have an export add-on that allows you to export your accessibility checker data to CSV files. So, like I said, today we are looking at adding smarter accessibility reporting into the plugin. And I think that would be a great feature to start with. A little bit of background on this one was this feature actually kind of initiated from our CEO, Amber Hines, and Amber took the steps to actually create a PR for us. And
That was a
that,
lot of fun.
that was, yeah. So that may scare some dev teams, and that may it maybe seem helpful to some dev teams. For us, it was actually welcomed, and it was actually beneficial to help us accelerate this feature and get it out to you. So let's take a look. All right. So what do we mean when we talk about better accessibility reporting? So in the free plugin, if you're using the accessibility checker and you're looking at issues, so I'm going to view an issue on the front end of the website. So you see the accessibility checker front end highlighter is open to an issue. So where before we just kind of had a paragraph description that would show for the issue that was highlighted, the current issue. Now we've kind of reduced that description down to something that's very easy to read, a one sentence, something very digestible, and then we divided it up under a subheading of how to fix the issue. So not only are we telling you what's wrong, we're now trying to give you information on things that you can take action on. And we still have our link to the full documentation, so you can read full documentation about this issue and more code examples and things like that. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring more actionable information into the plugin for you to see at a glance. And I think that's it for the front end highlighter. So if you're running Accessibility Checker Pro, if you now go to in the WordPress admin and you go to Accessibility Checker and you go to Open Issues, the Open Issues screen is now presented with a little bit different. Where before we would just kind of tell you the check, the rule, and the type and the count. Now we've added severity and we've added WCAG level. And the initial ordering has changed a little bit too. So we're kind of doing a multi-level ordering now, to where we're ordering first by count. Well, first by severity, and then secondly by count. So on my screen, you can see I have the rules listed here, and severity, you'll see the critical goes to high, to medium, to low. And you can see the counts kind of restart based on the severity. So like if I'm looking at just the critical issues, like the first critical issue has 150 issues, and then the last one, goes all the way down to 1 issue. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to order these in the way that we think is you could get the most impact and make the most improvement in your accessibility. So it's like how critical we think the issue is, and then the number of issues that exist within that severity level. And then of course you go into high and you can see that count restart, and medium and low. And then, but what we are still doing, we still are putting all the past issues down at the bottom so that they're not in your way. So with that, we actually made these columns sortable, so that if you want to look at it differently than our default sorting, you can click on the table headers. So like if I click on count, so it's now ordering by least to most. If I click it again, of course it switches from ascending to descending. And you can do this on every column. So the WCAG level, so I say I only wanted to see the most, the AAA and AA down to A, and best practice. And then severity, you can see all your critical rules all in one grouping. So when we first looked at this, we were kind of going back and forth, like, does this make sense? Because we've always had errors and warnings and past, of course. But and I think internally we were kind of struggling a little bit with, like, well, what does that mean to have an error and a warning and then have a severity, right? Do you want to speak to that at all, William?
Not really. So this was quite confusing for me at first.
Yeah.
Like, for example, why is one of the or two of these high severity issues only warnings or errors, and the others or the opposite? Like, that doesn't immediately make sense to me on the surface. So I had to have, as it was explained to me, warnings are things that probably require a human to check as a follow-up on its discovery. And, so, maybe internally I might be fighting to make one of these columns not the default visible.
Yeah.
I think I would rather only see one at a time by default.
Yeah, so you're right. So in the accessibility checker, a warning is actually something that requires human review to validate if what we found is actually correct. And an error is something that we, with a great deal of confidence, we can assume that what we have found programmatically is correct, and it doesn't necessarily require human review. So we kind of went back a little bit internally, like, should we rename these? Like, instead of errors and warnings, it should be like, like a requires manual review, or like, doesn't require manual review, or like automated review. And the plugin being several years old, that would be quite the jarring change throughout the plugin, and we would have to update a lot of documentation, and actually it would be a pretty significant change programmatically as well. So we kind of left it the same, but what we did was, I had a little bit of a concern about the visual load of this page, because initially errors and warnings in past were kind of in a like button. They look kind of like buttons. They weren't buttons, but they kind of looked like it, like a little flag. It was like a solid, red background and solid orange background. And so what we did was, we removed those backgrounds. We just made them text, and we added icons, and we changed the warning from an orange to a blue, to not conflict from a visual standpoint with the severity levels. So like, it does raise the question, like how can a warning be high? How can a warning be more have a higher severity level than an error, right? So that's where it gets a little confusing, that the warning actually means that it requires human review to validate if it actually is a real issue. So to that, we wanted to add some explanation to severities and types and stuff inside the plugin. And so up in the help tab in the top right hand corner of the admin, you can toggle help, and you can now get a couple tabs here to for descriptions for types, understanding issue types, errors, with accessibility issues that are almost certain barriers for users with disabilities, and it goes on. And then warnings, potential accessibility issues that might be problematic depending on context. And that goes on, and we provide some links over to our documentation and over to our support here as well. And then there's a second tab for severity, so where it talks about critical, high, medium, and low, and kind of how we're evaluating the severity levels. And we found that the way we're actually kind of doing it is, we're actually kind of validating the severity off of what Axe Core is doing, and a little bit off of our own discernment internally. I was actually listening to the WP Product Talk podcast this morning, and Amber was kind of demoing some of this stuff as well, and talking about that, using the help tab up in the top of the admin. And Zach Katz kind of mentioned that nobody uses that. And it's kind of funny, because I know
I've used
William,
it once,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
twice.
yeah. When William and I were talking about implementing this, and I think we were both kind of like, yeah, I don't know that we've ever used this help tab inside, and it's there if you go to like a post type. And
It
but
does seem like it's a good place for this information to live, but it isn't incredibly discoverable.
yeah, I would agree. And I think our initial thought was that we would implement it here, with the and with the thought that if it really became an issue, we would actually maybe pull it out, and over to the right hand side, maybe make sort of a description key of sorts. But from a plugin development standpoint, utilizing the help tab is very easy, and you can hook into it very easily and put your data there, and that's just some UI that you don't have to create. So I thought this was a pretty good place for it, but I would agree with you, William. I'm not 100% sure how discoverable it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to tell people to click that
Yeah,
when they send questions.
yeah, possibly. Um, So if you are sorting these tables and you do modify them, we do provide you with a button to reset the default sorting. And that just moves it back to that multi-level sorting that I talked about earlier. So once you click through to an issue, so I'm clicking on ambiguous anchor text, and that brings me over to the individual issues for that rule check. So now we've updated our description box here with the updated information on the WCAG criterion that it references, and in this case, it's the 2.4.4 link purpose, and it is a level A, and the severity is critical, as we saw on the previous page. And we've divided this up into multiple headings on why it matters. So we give a detailed description on why it matters, but a detailed but brief. And then we provide the how to fix text. This is the same text that I showed in the front end highlighter. And we have with a link to more detailed documentation, and then we provide additional resources. So a lot of these links, a lot of times there's lots of references that we could use in the MDM docs or in WCAG docs. So we're linked over to resources that will help you understand this issue and help you remediate this issue.
Yeah, so we do also have information about the affected user groups that individual issues might pertain to, which probably will also appear in this right-hand side box in a not too distant future.
Yes, yes. So that has been added in the code. So that's something that we've already implemented from a code standpoint, but we have not surfaced inside the plugin yet. And so look for that in the future. So that is the how we are adding more information and helping you get to fixing the issue quicker and getting the information in front of you that you need. Like I said, a big shout out to Amber Hines for opening a PR on this and kind of scaring the dev team with with the CEO opening a PR, but definitely helped bring this feature to life and help bring it to the public. I think a lot quicker than it would have.
Yes. So for just for a bit of reference, I am a developer, and a lot of this text is not in my wheelhouse. I'm not a copywriter. I couldn't have written this even with guidance. This ideally came from Amber, and I don't think there's anyone else in our company that would have been qualified to write this quite as nice. And I'm a big fan of the how to fix messaging now, because before it was almost a bit of flying blind. We were not actually telling you. We were saying, here's this issue, this is what the issue is, but we weren't explaining how it could be fixed, or even why it was important to fix it. So all that information now is right there in front of you. You don't need to visit the documentation links anymore. Get that info.
Yep. So, yeah, like we suggested, Amber put a comment, said maybe in the future the word warning will change to needs review. So, yeah, that's kind of what we were explaining. And I think that's part of making a software product like this, especially something that involves accessibility, where you're trying to give context to how the rule was found and what the severity of it is and what the priority of fixing that issue is. Adding more clarity in the future, I think, would be great. So that was that feature. So we've added the next feature here that we want to talk about is we added a rescan button in the front end highlighter to rescan the current page. So let me share my screen again. So did you do this one, William?
We had a bit of help from the AI for this one.
Well, we don't need to out ourselves.
I had previously worked on this and had UI problems that I didn't resolve in the moment. And
Yeah,
AI helped get this over the finish line.
sure. So why did we add this?
Well, quite a few users at this point are not visiting the editor page at all anymore. There's a lot of front end page builders. There's a lot of people who might be looking at their issues on the front end and not wanting to visit the admin. Not everyone's technical. They don't like being in the dashboard. But a lot of people on websites and they like to look at their stats. Here you can see your issues, and if you don't think the rules or you don't think what it's found is correct, you can click that button right there, that rescan button.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all of a sudden, the issues are wiped, and a fresh scan of this exact page as it is right now is performed, and then you can see the results right there and then.
Yeah. So in our previous live stream, we talked about we added the ability for the front end highlighter to scan unscanned pages. So if you go to if you navigate to the front end page that hasn't actually been scanned in the back end, that the when
Oh,
you
we're covering the box, Steve. We're going to have to go in the admin and move it to the left.
oh yeah, hold on, the you're
Or
talking
do,
about on the live
yes.
stream. There we
Yep.
go. Sorry about that. um
Oh, you still have a sharing button.
I got it. There we go. Much
Fixed.
better. Yeah, thanks for calling that out. But yeah, so in a previous version we added the ability if a post had not been scanned that the front end highlighter, if it was initiated, it would automatically scan that and show you results. So as a secondary feature to that, we've added this rescan button, which you can now see that now that William instructed me to move it into the viewable area. We have this rescan button and you hit rescan and it says scanning, and then it refreshes with the issues. So the issues didn't change in this respect because I didn't do anything. But like if I was to enable a fix, so you can enable fixes from the front end. You can actually rescan the page here. And in future release, what we'll do is we'll actually just do it for you whenever you enable a fix. Um, One thing that I found kind of interesting when I was going through was that like if you're like a developer playing around, like let me I can actually like so say this issue that says aria hidden, um I can go in here. Is that what it was? An aria hidden?
Yep.
Yeah. So like if I actually wanted to just, you know, I mean, this is not correct for me to move this, but like this is just for illustration purposes, but I could rescan the page and it's scanning and it refreshes and now that issue is gone. So like I can kind of like play around in the front end, which is a little dangerous because that's now saved in the database. So it's not entirely correct now, but I can kind of
I do have plans to make this be able to scan without saving, so
yeah.
that users that are experimenting can verify their fixes right here, and that's going to be particularly useful for people that use the front end page builders.
Right.
Like what you see is what you get. They're going to want to run temporary scans.
Right. Totally. So I kind of found it useful to kind of play around with modifying the elements inside the Chrome inspector and the rescanning. Like, okay, that's how I fix it. Now we go to the code and we fix it. We fix it there. So that's kind of just a small feature, trying to add a little bit of more usability to the front end highlighter. We actually, I'm going to tease a future feature right now since we're talking about it, but we have a PR up, a pull request up for being able to clear the issues out on the front end as well, which you can actually currently do in the back end. So we're going to surface that to the front end highlighter. So that is our rescan button.
Well, that actually leads us into an interesting thing. So the reason that the clear issues button exists is because some people ended up with orphaned issues that were not attached to posts entirely, and we needed that button to clear them. That is also the next feature on the list that we released on
Yeah.
Tuesday. Yeah, we've released this week actually.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
now if there is posts in the database that are dangling, no post attached to them anymore. Maybe the post was deleted with command line, some plugin deleted the post and didn't fire the appropriate hooks. We don't keep that in the database anymore. We actually will now have a background process that runs once a day, and we'll start slowly making sure that the database gets cleaned up once a day, up to 50 issues at a time, to make sure that it doesn't hit performance of your website. But yeah, if you have issues that are dangling with nothing attached to them, or the post types are mismatched, or whatever has happened has caused that data to be recorded but no longer connected, they will just be removed, and it will keep your database nice and clean.
So will this work for this will work for people that have been building up orphaned issues over time?
Over forever. And there are various reasons why issues do not get fired. So we do have actions bound to the trash post, to the delete post, and we should be cleaning up our own issues as posts move between statuses. But sometimes plugins skip posts. They skip all the actions, they skip the post delete or the trash step, and there's no way for us to track every single situation. It also used to be problematic for us to scan our database every day and find these issues, but now it's just a simple SQL query. It's quick. It does 50 in a batch, and it will just continue to do that every day. And this opens up the opportunity for other cleanup routines to make sure that we can keep all of you know all of these websites that we're installed on, make sure that we're not slowing them down by increasing our database size unnecessarily. We are only going to store the things we need to offer what we say we do on our plugin. Right? We don't want to be storing additional data. We don't want to be leaving things dangling after we're gone.
Yeah. So that it can happen too, like when I think where it kind of highlighted itself for us was when post types actually or when somebody actually switches a post from one post type to another, and you think that wouldn't happen very often, but it happens more than you would realize. And there's also a second use case too, where like if accessibility checker plugin gets turned off for a time and then posts are deleted while the plugin is turned off, and then when it's turned back on, it'll still retain that data in the accessibility checker database. And this just provides a way to clean that up. And I think we can demo this. I can demo it. Is that all right, William?
Yeah, you pull up a
Okay.
demo. I didn't prep for this. I could maybe, while you're doing that, prep for this. I did also add a command, a WP CLI command. So if someone discovers that they have quite a lot of orphaned issues, they can actually use the command line and clear out as many issues as they want in a
Yep.
go without having to wait for the once a day check to run.
Cool. Well, I'll demo that. So let's take a look. So the first use case here, I think what we'll do is we'll look at switching the custom post type. So what I'm looking at now is I'm actually looking at the MySQL database. I'm looking at the accessibility checker table, and I'm looking at the results inside that table. And you can see that I got 1,493 rows. So 1,493 rows. If I go into pages here and I select
Actually, I think I might want to stop you at this point. I'm not sure this does clean up the post type thing, and maybe you
no,
demo the other one, and I'll check that.
well, let's demo it and let's see.
But let's see. Yeah,
We'll
if
do
it
so.
doesn't, we'll fix it. I'll
I
open
mean,
an issue.
I'm pretty sure it does because I tested it, but
Yeah. Well,
let's see.
well, you tested it, but I didn't write tests,
Oh, you didn't write tests. Yeah, yeah.
so
Oh,
that's
hold on.
what
So
confuses me.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bulk action, and I'm going to change the posts.
Oh,
Oh,
you don't
post.
have post types.
I don't have other post types, but look here. Here's what we can do. If I turn on a plugin like Elementor, which should give us additional custom post types. So I'll select like 5 of them or so. Edit, bulk edit, post type. I'm going to change it to template, which is just the element or custom post type. It's kind of weird to actually switch a post to that post type, but this is just for demo. So, okay. So you can see I've moved those. So there was roughly like 4 or 5 posts that were moved to a different post type. So I've got 1493 rows. So there's 2 ways to so this will actually automatically run every 24 hours. It'll do this cleanup, but you can initiate it in a couple of different ways. And William already talked about one way, which was using the WP CLI. So our plugin actually has a handful of WP CLI scripts. We've wrote a CLI script for this. And the other way to do it is actually to use something like the Control plugin to actually initiate the cron job in an off cycle. So let's try to run the WP CLI. I'm here in my terminal on Mac, and the WP CLI script is WP space accessibility dash checker space cleanup dash orphaned dash issues. So let's run this and see if we get some results. There we go. Found 5 orphaned post IDs, and then it tells me the ones that it's deleting. So it says deleting issue for post ID 8589, and then of course it goes down and shows me the same for the 5 issues. So, and then I get a success message that says orphaned issues cleaned up complete. 5 post processed. So
I'm glad that worked.
yeah, so we had William sweating a little bit on that one.
I need to write PHP tests for that. I didn't. Yeah. That's what made me question it, because I wrote them specifically for if the ID doesn't exist, but I don't remember writing them for if the type changed.
Right. Yeah. So this feature and so this feature was a little bit of a tag team. So between, we can say it, the AI kind of initially helped us write something, and the way a lot of times it goes with AI is you get an initial recommendation on how to do something, and then you look at it and you go, no, this isn't right. So and then I think William took a pass on it.
To be fair, I think the AI did an okay job of this. I just added the command line because this is how I would personally want to clear these issues out.
Yeah.
So this, I'm sure other people are similar to me. And yeah, just some code cleanup. The AI that we tested with this did not like tabs, so it did not write very clean code.
Yeah. So William did a pass on it, cleaned it up, and added some use cases there. And then I did a review, and I found that it was only deleting posts that didn't exist anymore. And I wanted it to actually delete posts that don't exist, and when the post type had actually changed on an issue.
So you changed this after I had
yeah. So that's exactly
why I didn't write the tests.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up. That's exactly why William kind of like freaked out a little bit when I started to do this, because he didn't necessarily do that piece. But then it went over to him for review. So we've been moving fast and doing lots of features, so we can kind of forget. I call it developer amnesia. You have to flush the brain to put more stuff in.
As soon as you finish one thing, you need to move to the next.
Yeah. So if I go back and I look at my MySQL database here, I said we had 1493 rows. If I refresh, I now have 1478. So that's less the 5 that we deleted. So a second example of this is just when posts are deleted, and we do run a cleanup when a post is deleted with the plugin active. But if the plugin is not active, or for some reason the hook that we use to remove issues out of our database when that's deleted fails for whatever reason, like maybe there's a plugin conflict on your website and something further up in the stack fails and it never gets to our cleanup process, then that would actually generate an orphaned issue if the post in fact did delete. So the way I can demo this is if I go to WordPress and I go to plugins, or the WordPress admin, and then I go to plugins, and I'm going to deactivate Accessibility Checker Pro, and I'm going to deactivate accessibility checker. So now if I go to the post page and I select a handful of posts, I don't know how many this is, but it's like roughly 10. And I just move those to the trash. Just for, I'm going to dump the trash just to make sure. So I've deleted 11 posts. So now if I go back to the accessibility checker and I reactivate the plugin, and this will actually clean up just with the free plugin. You don't have to have Pro installed, but I'm going to turn Pro back on. And now if I run that CLI command again, it'll delete them, just like it did before. But since we're here in the admin, I want to show you the other way to kind of manually trigger this. And it's just using a plugin called WP Control. If I go to cron events, so if I go to tools, cron events, and I just search EDAC, which is equalized digital accessibility checker, it's kind of our prefix. You can see that there's a cron job here called EDAC cleanup orphaned issues, and you can just hit run now. Now, where this will be different than the CLI script is you won't get visual feedback that it actually did it like you do in the terminal, but it should run nonetheless. So if I hit run now, so that's going to go ahead and run that scheduled event. It doesn't affect the one that runs every day, and it's going to go through and delete those issues. So how do I know if it actually deleted the orphaned issues? Well, since I'm not using WPCLI, I kind of have to rely on the MySQL database. If I jump back over to my MySQL database admin here and I refresh, we should see this number drop by 11. So currently it's 1,478. If I refresh, it's now 1,450. So actually, I was wrong about the 11.
Some of them have more issues than one.
Yeah. We deleted 11 posts, but there are multiple issues within the post, and it looks like it actually deleted roughly 25 issues throughout those 11 posts. So that is our cleanup process, and this is something that we've talked about for a long time, something that we've had in the roadmap to implement, and I'm happy that we finally got that implemented.
Yeah, it's nice that this exists now. I will call out that in the WP CLI command, you can actually increase the batch size. So if you have, you've turned our plugin off a year ago and just recently reactivated it, you might have 10,000 issues that are orphaned. You might have a lot of them. You can actually increase the batch size on the command line flag version of this. So if you wanted to delete all of them in one go, you could do that. And if you have a concern about performance, you actually have added the sleep timer. So you can actually add like a delay between each deletion. So you could delete, 10,000 posts with 0.2 seconds between each one, or 2 seconds, 5 seconds. You can change that to whatever you want.
Cool.
Yeah, with the cron job, no such choices, right? It will do 50 at a time. And if you're in a situation where you have a very old site and you've just recently reactivated the plugin after 1 year or 2 years, you probably want to use the command line option.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So our next feature is the ability to filter post statuses that are scanned in the full site scanner.
Yeah, so this has been a very long-term requested feature by many people, and we have always been slightly resistant to building this because, you want to know about your issues before you publish the post. You don't only want to know them in published posts. But, well, I think that's what people want to know. It turns out customers think differently. Sometimes the customers actually do want to just scan the published posts. And now using a simple filter, they can do that with the full site scanner. So they can choose what post statuses are scannable.
Yeah.
In the full site scanner, I'll call out if you visit a single post, it will still scan the issues even if it's a draft. But So the filter only affects the full site scanner, and that is on purpose.
Yeah.
I want you to get your results if you're editing a post.
Yeah, the single issue will be a separate filter.
Yep.
So, yeah, so it is interesting building software like this and getting lots of feedback from clients that come in through support or just, feature requests. And this one actually probably was the one that would come up the most. And I think it's, people have different use cases for how they handle posts, right? I think we had a client that was, they basically had, what we would call kind of the old post, or just outdated posts, that they just set them all to draft, and so that they can, it's kind of like posts that they're probably planning to like set as archived, and in an accessibility way, archived, and that way they don't have to like worry about the compliance on those issues. But and they were setting them all to draft, and then they would go to the full site scanner, and the full site scanner is going to scan everything. And if they have a large number, 5, 10,000 posts, it could take a long time to scan. So I think what users are asking for in the full site scanner are ways to get a full site scan, get a picture of kind of what the overall issues are like throughout the website, but maybe filter them by, post status, maybe filter them even by post type, which you can do, but you have to select the post type in the settings.
I pre-scoped that actually while I was looking at the status. I think we will implement a filter for the type as well in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and possibly date. And so this
It's a
is,
little more complicated.
yeah, this is laying the groundwork for us to be able to add kind of custom filters to the full site scanner, so you can choose what type of full site scan you want to run. So are you prepped to demo this, William?
I can be in 2 minutes,
2
maybe.
minutes? I got to talk for
Let's
two. That's
see.
a long time in live stream time.
Let's see.
So basically, what we've done is we've gone through, and you can just add a custom filter to your functionality plugin or to your theme inside your functions.php file to actually filter these out. And the reason why we start with a filter, and then a lot of times when we create features like this, we will, from a development standpoint, we'll create the filter first. That way we can kind of run tests and do all of our testing to make sure it works. And then from there, we'll build a UI on top of the filter. And what that does is, like, say we have these handful of clients that have been requesting this, we can actually get this over to them. We can give them a pre-release of the plugin, and we can tell them, here's the filter to use, and they can test it and provide us with feedback on it, if it's working or if there's any bugs or things like that. So I don't think that was 2 minutes, William, but let's
Yeah,
pull you.
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
There we go.
So here's my scan of my test site. I have 75 pages in total. 10 or so ish are drafts or other statuses. So this is the filter. It's actually really quite simple. This is the filter name. It gets past the current statuses, and you return an array of statuses that you want. In this case, I'm going to only want published pages. So if I come back here, you see I didn't need to refresh the page because this is constantly doing a poll in the background. And now there's 64 pages to be scanned. So I'll click this one, run the scan. It's going to scan all 64 of those pages.
How many did you have before you added the filter?
75.
75.
So I have 11 draft posts or pages.
So if you stop that scan, and then you go to the filter and actually change the filter to draft, and then
So I'm going to need to reload the page for this one. This one does not update the numbers, but yeah, there we go. 9 and 2.
yeah, so now he's
So this is going to scan drafts, but it's going to fail on my local site. Every one of these isn't going to be scannable.
yeah.
Apparently number 4 is very slow.
Yeah, but so very easy to filter those out. Oh, I like that, how that scanner went backwards. What was that, William?
It's too fast for its own good
Yeah,
when the number's low.
yeah, the progress bar kind of kind of. So we have like JavaScript polling on the page to like increase the the progress
The,
bar.
so what happened there was I actually scanned 2 pages in the time that it pulled because my polling rate is set at 5 seconds.
Oh, I see. I see. Very cool.
So yeah,
So
that's updated
so
it. And if I change this back, or if I just comment this out again, after a few seconds, this number will go back up. Maybe not, but yeah, there's the 75 total that's got
yeah,
listed.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that won't complete. Obviously, this is the amount that it just scanned.
Yeah. You have to hit run a new scan. There you go. Yeah. So very cool. So, something
Yeah,
that
so
we're a
just
feature
nice and
that we
easy.
were yeah, a feature we were a little nervous about was actually not nearly as hard to implement as we thought.
Well, we got it implemented with just this, but the amount of changes that were needed were not small.
Yeah. So this is out in the current version that went out on this Tuesday, and you give it a try. And we will be sending this over to some of our clients that have requested this and asking for more testing. And look forward to us surfacing this in the UI here in the near future. All right, so on the last stream we talked about landmarks. We added landmark locations to the plugin, and since William's already there, um, we've added this to the open issues tab as well. You now have a column in the table for landmarks, and you can click on a landmark and it will open it in the front end and highlight it for you. So, and this has been implemented in previous versions on the individual page. So there we go. Very good. All right. So the next feature, which I kind of like, and this was one that was kind of sitting out just in a, I don't know, on a shaping board or something that just never got implemented, was to add the license key to the plugin admin page. So why would we want to do this, and why would we spend time doing this? So William, do you want to pull that up?
I mean, I could, but please don't comment on my 40 on
Well,
update plugin.
this is a local environment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So here, my license is currently activated. If I click this link, it's going to deactivate it, but I don't have my license key to hand, so I can't click the link.
Here, let me show my screen.
Yeah, but I actually can show quickly. So we're now with the quick fix, the quick links here.
Yeah.
Can actually just get to it here.
Yeah.
Real fast.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to surface these little things and make the plugin just that much easier to use. And when you activate a plugin, or when you install the Accessibility Checker Pro, say you just purchased it and you installed it, and now you need to add the key, and you can just add it right there. So I'll run you through that real quick. So if I deactivate my license, so I'm on the plugins admin page in the WordPress admin. You can see Accessibility Checker Pro, and then below it, it says license, your key, and then an activation button. It says enter your license info and press return to activate it. So I'm going to not show you what my license key is. So I've turned off the screen while I add my license key, and I hit activate. And I'll show you the screen now. And it says your license for Accessibility Checker Pro is active. And then you could deactivate it again. So we're just taking steps to make it just that much easier and that much quicker for you to do the things you need to do to make the plugin work. What's the next feature? So The last two features we have here are kind of they're kind of not bug fixes, but enhancements we've done to a couple of the rules to make them a little smarter. And this is something that we're constantly doing at Equalize Digital. Is we have audits and remediations going on, and we have plugin development going on, and those two parts of the business help feed each other, right? So as auditors are going through and auditing things, it's great user testing for the plugin, and it surfaces issues that the development team doesn't always come across. So it's like in software development, it's called dog fooding. And so we actually use the accessibility checker day to day in the services that we provide to people. When we run audits and remediations, the accessibility checker is at the core of those. And when you use your product, you can get a lot of feedback on what's wrong, and you can come across a lot of websites that are not always in your test suite, right? You can run all kinds of scenarios, different themes and page builders and things like that. So so a lot of times we have a constant loop of issues that are being raised inside the plugin, and then rules that need to be made smarter. And here are a couple of them. So we enhance the ARIA hidden check to understand more sibling relationships. Do you want to speak about that, William?
Yeah, so some of the rules we have look at, directly at the markup that is discovered by the scanner and determine whether it is valid or, it passes or it fails. But some of the rules look at other things. So, for example, the rule for the ARIA hidden check. So ARIA hidden is there's a bunch of valid use cases to use ARIA hidden. For example, decorative images. So we will still flag a decorative image that includes ARIA hidden, unless we can discover sibling descriptor text. So for example, a social media icon might include screen reader text. That is a valid use of ARIA hidden, right? You're hiding the image, but providing the screen reader text. And other valid use cases might be an SVG that contains some description text. That isn't going to be visually seen, but it will be announced by the screen reader. And that's also a valid use of hiding other elements nearby. So discovering ARIA hidden, previously we would really just flag all instances. And almost all other scanners flag every instance that they discover of ARIA hidden. But there is legitimate uses. And if we can determine legitimate uses by the sibling elements, we actually won't flag it as an issue because, why give you that noise, right? We've been able to determine it's valid.
Yep.
And yeah, for me, an interesting thing about this rule specifically is that this looks at other things on the pages. Almost all other scanners look only at the instance they have discovered, but we're discovering the instance and validating whether or not it's allowable based on our decisions. There's no hard and fast rules. We have encountered valid use cases, and now we've codified them.
Right. So this is actually a warning. We talked about this at the beginning of this live stream, and a warning requires human evaluation. But I think as we refine our rule sets and we go through, when we find use cases like this where we can even make a warning or something that requires manual review smarter, to not surface so much noise to the user, that makes the plugin more usable and more beneficial, and it saves them time in their remediation. So on the screen here, what we're looking at is I've got two pieces of code, and what I'll do sometimes when we test is we just dump them into a code block inside the block editor so that we can run tests and see if they're an issue. Down in the details tab, I do have a couple ARIA hidden issues, but they are different. They're actually I can show you. There are these arrows down here. These are not the code that I put in these code blocks. And so
What
this,
team is this? Is this 2024?
I think this is 24. So what we're doing is there's a button, there's an SVG, and then there's text accompanying it, right? So in this first code block here, the accompanying text is menu. So we could flag that as ARIA hidden, right? And say, hey, this is ARIA hidden, go look at it and see if it's legit, right? But what we've done is we've made the rule smarter and saying, hey, we went and checked the siblings that exist within this parent element, and we found inner text, and we can determine that this is a valid use case of ARIA hidden, and we no longer flag this as an issue for you to review. So that's just the steps that we're always taking to try to make these rules more intelligent and to try to save you time in your remediations. Anything else on that one, William?
No, nothing on this one. But the next issue is kind of similar in sense as well, whereby it is an analysis of the entire page. So the other issue that we enhanced this time was the image alt redundant check. Formerly, if it discovered repeated alt text on a page, it would flag them as redundant, because why would you include the same alt text? But we realized there is legitimate use cases for repeated alt text. For example, if you have the same image in two places, it should have the same alt text. That is correct from an accessibility standpoint. You want the same image to contain the same alt text, or not just the same image, but the same image that links to the same place. Like if the image has the same purpose, the alt text should be the same. And formerly we were flagging it as an error, but we've updated our rule now, and it will, every time it encounters an image when it's doing the redundant alt check, it will look at all the other images on the page as well. So we now have the capability with a recently improved scanner that we always have access to the full context of the page. So no longer are we looking at just the discovered snippet in the violation or potential violation. We are also looking at what we can compare that violation against the rest of the page context, and as such, get a much clearer picture of what is going on the page and whether something is valid or not, right? Because something we're always trying to do is we want to reduce noise as much as possible. We're going to throw all these issues in your face. If some of them are invalid, that's on us. So we're doing our best to make sure that we're not throwing invalid things at you, right? We're only throwing genuine issues whenever we can determine them. So in almost every release, we have an enhancement like this, where we already did something, but we've improved it.
Right. And and again, I will reiterate that that's just in an effort to save remediation time, and the reason why making the plugin intelligent and saving time in that respect is because we actually use it in our audits and remediations, and if we can save our internal team time, it's a huge benefit to us, it's a huge benefit to the client, and it's a huge benefit to implement this in the plugin and get that out to all of you users as well. I brought the code up. I'm looking at the diff, the code diff in GitHub on this, just to show how simple it was before when we were running this this check, and then kind of the complexity that was added to go out and search the full context of the page. So before it was real simple. We're just checking to see if the alts are similar. And now, we've added all these conditionals to kind of run through and check different nodes and stuff. So I thought this was interesting. And when we develop things like this too, like we talked about developer amnesia, which I think William and I both suffer from severely. it's just a cognitive overload. You can only put so much in these brains, but we actually, from a development standpoint, we like to utilize comments to in a respectful and concise way, but in a way to kind of uh, help our future selves out. So we will, as you can see on the screen, we've thoroughly documented this in 4 lines of comment code, and that will be highly beneficial for us or anybody else on our team, or if somebody does a PR on the public repo. And I think while I have this up, maybe I'll just note a little bit on how we've come to a place with the development of the accessibility checker that we can actually take these issues that are raised from our internal team and turn those into fixes that we have assurance actually work, and that are testable. And when we did our big refactor of all the rules into JavaScript, William actually implemented jest tests in our test suite. And so now when the issue's raised and say Amber opens an issue that she found and she gives us, this is the code snippet that's giving a false positive, and this is what the code snippet should be. From a development standpoint, that's amazing because we can just take that code snippet and we can create these tests off of it, and then we can actually just prompt AI to say, hey, give it context of the rule, give it context of the test, show it which test you add, and say, now update the rule based on these tests, updates it. Then we can actually run the jest test and confirm that it actually worked.
So sometimes I do most of the time I do it the opposite way. So what I normally do is I feed the AI the problematic fragment and I ask it to create these test cases. So I
That's
get it to
interesting.
create these test cases so I can manually write some, or I can have the AI generate edge cases or whatever. And once it's written the test cases, normally I'll try and take the first pass at fixing it manually. And if I can't fix it, then I'll ask the AI to take a pass at it. And normally these enhancements, but not just these enhancements, but a lot of the development work we do now is aided by AI to help speed things up.
Yeah, totally. And I think having a test suite like this, especially for rules that you're always trying to evaluate, like, I mean, some of our test suites for like a rule maybe like 10 lines to actually run the evaluation, and then we have like 200 lines of tests, and that's because we're going to run this on all these scenarios, and we can just keep adding tests to it. And it is interesting that your approach to this and my approach to this are actually flip-flopped. Like, I'll actually write the test first and then tell AI, hey, here's the test. And
Yeah, I like to write the rule. I like to feel like I'm doing the important side.
yeah. I mean, that's cool, but yeah. So
I can't actually, where we're talking about the test though, I actually fixed the thing that came in a client request or a customer request. It came in a while ago, but they were having issues with transcripts, so I can actually show live how we use these tests to validate the fixes. If you pull up my screen. So yeah, the customer a while ago had an issue they were unable to detect. So they have a link, an external link that goes to their transcripts. So the way our missing transcript rule works is it finds the video and then it tries to make sure there's a transcript within a reasonable amount of content afterwards. So this is this is a scaled back version, but this is very close to what the client's markup looks like. And I've pasted this right into the test. And the issue was the test formerly would discover this first iframe and then trip up on this second iframe in the no script tag and thus never reach down here to discover that a transcript exists. And it would flag this. And this was caused by an optimization plugin. So it loads a fake iframe first and then swaps it with the no script iframe afterwards. So this is lazy loaded iframes.
Lazy load, yeah.
And this was causing a problem. So I've came here and the first thing I did was I simplified this markup and added it to this test file. And I do have changes. But if I run, so I can run all these tests. And yeah, now every one of these tests pass. This is the one I've just added. And here are the changes. If I just quickly copy and paste that entire file and roll it back to before any changes were made and rerun these tests, this one fails. And this is how we're able to validate that these changes we're making actually will pass for the tests that we've created. And these tests are generated from actual markup on customers' websites, but just generally people's websites.
Right. And we even spoof CSS and JavaScript inside of those tests sometimes too.
We can. I don't think there's any in this
okay.
test, but yeah, we can spoof CSS, JavaScript, and I mean when we say spoof it, we actually are applying it. This literally renders a page.
Yeah.
With these pieces of markup.
And it's beneficial too. I mean, not to go on too much of a tangent on doing test-driven development, but this actually comes in handy too a lot of times, where it's like sometimes an issue is raised internally that like should this rule be flagging for this this markup, and we don't always know, and then we can plug it in there and run it and go, okay, well, it doesn't flag it, or it does flag it, and we can actually keep adding to the test suite without actually modifying the code when we come across other scenarios that are very specific, just like what William highlighted from the customer.
Yeah, so this was, I've scaled this back and I've, anonymized it and whatnot, but this is the markup direct from their website. This is the exact pattern it had. And as you saw before these changes, it would fail.
Yeah.
Now it will pass.
And if we modify a rule check, and if we modify it and we rerun these tests and we actually violate a scenario that we put in there, like with the change, it'll actually be a red flag. Hey, you can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have this workflow that will run. This is a GitHub action. Anytime any of the rules or the checks are changed, this will run the tests in CI. And if you've made a change that breaks them,
yep,
you'll be blocked from merging.
Yep. So if you're out there and you submit a PR to us, this runs in our continuous integration, and will run on any PR that you tried to submit to our repo. So
yeah, but I mean it will block you from merging, but it actually is also helpful, right?
Yeah.
You know that if you're making changes, and I will encourage people that if they have markup that is problematic, open a PR and add it to the test file, and the test will obviously fail, but then we can take that PR and we can figure out why this fails, and then we can fix that problem. So yeah, if you ever feel like you've found something that should pass or fail and it doesn't, just come to our repo and literally add this markup fragment.
Cool. So that little improvement, it has not been released yet, right, William?
This has been worked on literally just before this call, this live stream. So this will be out in the next release, hopefully.
Well, that leads us to teasing new updates. Yep. So that'll be a small fix out in the next one. And so what's upcoming for the accessibility checker after this? We, in the last live stream, we talked about scanning our archive pages, and we may be on track to get that out in the next, or the one after that.
I think the next release depended on code review.
Yeah, which is next Tuesday. So William's got a lot of work to do before that. But that is, he's right. That's a feature that needs some heavy testing to ensure that it's implemented correctly. So that's look for that coming soon. Email reports is a feature that we have gone through the scoping phase on, and at least from a technical standpoint, there's, of course, when you're starting to create email reports, there's going to be a design piece to that too. But what we're looking at doing is we're looking at setting up the plugin to allow you to connect to my.equalizedigital.com, which is our dashboard where you can manage your plugin licenses and any courses that you've purchased from us. Can all be managed there. But what we're looking at doing is making a way for the plugin, even the free plugin, to connect to my.equalize.com to be able to pull in your issue counts and to be able to start sending you email reports on the status of your accessibility on your website. Anything to add to that, William?
No, I mean, I think this is going to be incredibly useful for anyone who runs agencies where they maybe don't want to log into every single website under their accounts and check them every week or every month, whatever their frequency is. And now they're going to actually be able to configure themselves to receive like a weekly email, a monthly email, whatever the frequency they want is. And now they will be able to just look in their email inbox. I'm sure we all spend too much time in our email inboxes.
Yeah.
But it's still quicker getting into the email than it is to log into each site individually and keep an eye on it. And it will also help flag if there's a specific site that's had an update maybe and a plugin that has suddenly increased those numbers. You'll be able to compare them to your previous email and then figure out, what the cause of that is. And I have seen this on a lot of sites, is that a plugin update has changed something that is now causing a violation. And you're going to want to get on top of that quickly, usually by contacting the developer of the plugin and letting them know, because everyone tries to be accessible, but mistakes happen.
Yeah, totally. And so I think what we're trying to do with the accessibility checker is we're trying to make it smarter, and we're trying to make it more user friendly with services outside of accessibility checker to get it to your email box. And this final feature that we want to tease is a way to kind of open up the accessibility checker to a lot of different services. And this is with an issues API. And this is something that we started earlier this year that William has been working on. And you want to speak?
I have been working on this back and forth. So we were building an external integration of our own, and as such required an API to access the data. A fully robust API. We don't want to just hackily grab the data. We want the API to be fully secured, fully authenticated, and also capable of getting all the data that you might imagine. So we have an issues API and a PR that hopefully will be merged in sometime in the next maybe 2 or 3 releases. And it has ways of getting all the issues, getting individual issues, creating individual issues, deleting individual issues, and reading summary stats all over API calls programmatically as needed. And this opens up lots of options like main WP. Hosts can pull this information into their dashboards. Anyone can. You can build your own integration. Maybe you want a custom report database to, you might manage 500 websites. You can build your own database. You can build your own dashboards. You can build your own reports with API. And as a developer, I like using the API if I ever delete issues. Some of the features we've released, like the clear issues button, started as an API endpoint because as a developer, I was making use of that. And, no point in keeping that feature to myself. So that was released as the button. And yeah, in future, a full featured issues API will be available for all your stats, all of the issues, both creation, reading, and deletion.
Yep. Cool. So we're very excited about the issues API, and we're very excited about all the different integrations that we will be able to implement and that you will be able to implement.
Yeah.
So
if anyone has any ideas of things they might want to spec out or ideas they might want to build themselves, feel free to send them our way. Again, you can open up issues on our GitHub. You can just message us on social, whatever. Just let us know what you plan on build, because maybe we can gear what we release towards what you need.
Yep. Well, I think that has been quite the long episode and a lot of stuff to cover. And we're excited about the features that we've been working on. We're excited to get them in your hands. And like William said, feel free to give us any feedback you have. I would encourage you, if you haven't updated to the latest versions, go ahead and update them. The versions that we've been referencing in this episode of the Accessibility Checker free plugin is version 1.28 and
1.29.
1.29. So we've had 2 releases there. And then in Pro, we're looking at version 1.14 and 1.15. Something else? Got any?
I mean, I will encourage people to update to the latest version. There does include some under the hood database optimizations in there for index, and so you're going to want to get that free potential performance boost, especially if you're on a shared database host or a shared hosting. You're going to benefit. You're not going to save seconds per request, but you're going to save seconds over a few sessions.
Sure. Yeah. So check the full change log for all the fixes that were released. We don't necessarily talk about every little bug fix here, but reference the full change log for that. And I think that's it. We will have another stream in 2 weeks. These streams are run at 2 p.m. Eastern every other week. So look for us to release the next episode 2 weeks from today. So I think that's it. Thanks for joining us, William. Thanks for jumping in and going through all the technical stuff with us. And we will see you all in